And we have the honour now to be joined by Sheikh Mohammed Al Khalifa from Bahrain. He is the Minister of Oil. Thank you so much for taking the time. Busy time, of course, in everybody's schedule in the region. But tell me, how important is it that you're here at ADIPEC with all of the other ministers, particularly now?
Always a pleasure to bump into you, Eithne. I think this is now, without doubt, the preeminent oil show in the world. It's amazing how all the CEOs and ministers flock into this place. It's very easy to structure multiple appointments in one day. Excellent use of time, and I think it's getting better every year. So fantastic opportunity. Of course, OPEC had a meeting yesterday with their JMMC, and we've seen the announcements out there. You know, they're very keen in making sure that there is balance in the markets. They're doing the responsible thing, and of course, all support to them. And again, congratulations to the organizers. Another fantastic job. They keep getting better.
Now, when we look at what's been happening with OPEC, and particularly in the Declaration of Cooperation for the last 2 years, you've been a huge supporter in that as well. How important is it that we see this almost global unity among oil producers, particularly in volatile times when we look at supply and demand?
Well, I think the perception that OPEC is just there to support producers is wrong. There needs to be a lot more communication on really the value OPEC brings. Stability in the market is something that serves everyone. The volatility is not good for the consumers, not good for the producers. So establishing that balance in the market is tricky when it's a market of this size with speculators in there, with sentiment, and then with the rules of supply and demand. You know, we still need to see more investment in oil to make sure that we don't have a supply problem in the future. So. But it's very important to maintain a positive sentiment, and I think this is what OPEC is trying to do.
Now, of course, here at this show we see a lot of an increased interest in the downstream as well, which is very interesting, because I think now you really have to bring everything together. It's more of a holistic industry. You have to look at the upstream, you have to look at the downstream. You're doing quite a bit of work too in Bahrain on the downstream. Do you see it becoming more important for the future of the oil and gas industry?
Absolutely. Crude oil without processing has no real value. And a lot of the refineries are coming of age, which means you need to put newer processes to deliver on-spec products. You've got the IMO ruling with coming in 2020. That's going to take a lot of the high sulfur bunker fuel oil out of the market. So are we really prepared for that? Some people speculate maybe there'll be some relaxation of that rule, but if there isn't, that'll be disruptive to a lot of the refineries that have not upgraded. So there's a continuous need to make sure that your products are on spec. There's more demand for petrochemicals, and of course processes are becoming more efficient and more profitable. So the newer your asset base, the better chance you'll be profitable most of the time.
And when we listen to some of the international economists around the world, they're saying we might see a slowing in the global economy. But when you look from your position, where does the oil and gas sector look? There's still a lot of demand in the region. How are things looking? Are you optimistic for 2019?
Well, welcome to the rules of supply and demand. There's always a cycle. Where we are in the cycle, nobody knows. I think hindsight is always 2020. I think people remain optimistic. I think the narrative for a supply challenge still remains. I don't think we've seen enough investment come back since the decline. That's the real challenge. We sometimes have to look beyond the short-term volatility and look into the challenges of the future. Definitely need more investments in exploration, more investments in development of conventional resources to make sure that the world is well supplied for a healthy demand for the future. You've got so many inputs, as His Excellency Mr. Al mentioned. You can't control a lot of them. You've got the monetary policy in the US, the strength of the US dollar, the state of the world economy. All of these really attribute to the health of the oil and gas sector.